couple of different supporting cast members there. It's going to be a good one, and the best thing to do is to be diving on in and taking a look at how this one plays out.
Let's go ahead and get into the game one of this best of three series in losers round 3. Winner going forward to the losers finals, and the loser unfortunately going home in 4th place. But take a look at what's on the field right now for Enrique. It is going to be that Charizard and Incineroar, and Renzo bringing the Charizard and the Umbreon. The Umbreon, Adam, that we've seen be a little bit more impactful over the course of this tournament.
It's grown into the tournament. It started out looking a little bit problematic and not impacting the game as much as you might like from it, but the more we've seen Renzo play it, the more use it's had over the course of this tournament. These Charizards kind of just squaring off against each other, not really able, I think, to find huge advantages. You know, definitely want to try and get the solar power, and I think both trainers maybe hoping that their opponent bought the sun for them so that they could get the solar power from their opponent. How they play it is going to be really, really important. It does get a little bit tricky, actually, if you're Renzo. I mean, he's looking in that max move menu, maybe wants to try and get down the G-Max Wildfire, but the residual damage isn't going to work on either of the Pokemon on Enrique's side. So one of the big factors of why you use something like G-Max Wildfire has been taken away and is kind of null and void right now. So just this pairing from Enrique could be a little more potent. I mean, if Enrique decides to match it over here with a Dynamax or Gigantamax of his own, which he's not going for, you know, then he would at least get the residual damage down on the Umbreon. But Enrique holding off and just letting this Charizard do what it wants. In this case, though, the Max Airstream, I do like that.
Yeah, the Max Airstream is not going to be too potent because Enrique's Charizard did protect, but it is about the speed boost. And especially when you're playing an almost mirror match scenario, it is really, really good to make sure that you have that speed advantage. Umbreon did go for the yawn here, but because that Charizard on Enrique's side was protected, it is not going to land. But a huge Snarl coming through from Enrique's Incineroar, which will drop the special attack of both of Renzo's Pokemon. Huge.
A nice turn there from Enrique, getting away from the yawn behind the protect, you know, taking limited damage off the Airstream behind the protect. Really helpful. Yes, he does give over the speed advantage now to Renzo in the Charizard mirror match, but the special attack is still in Enrique's favor because of that Snarl from Incineroar. So nicely done there from Enrique, and maybe looking to just try and work through the next few turns of the Gigantamax on Renzo's side, and then use his when it's a little more impactful. The Charizard not even going for it this turn. Love the Grimmsnarl addition here. You know, it does mean we're missing a Groudon or a Venusaur. One or the other will be coming through, but this Grimmsnarl is going to be a great position to try and set up a little bit of help in the form of Reflect or Light Screen. I'd imagine it's going to be Light Screen first, then maybe a Reflect for later, and then try and weave in some Scary Faces as well to counteract that speed boost from the Max Airstream.
But because Renzo knows that Enrique's team is mostly special attackers, especially when you think about the big threats there, you may as well go for that Max Quake. Just in case one of those does come out in the end game, you do have that special defense boost. We are going to see Incineroar go for another Snarl, though, yet again dropping the special attack of that Umbreon and that Charizard. But the fact that Grimmsnarl was able to come in and be able to take that attack pretty well here, still think Enrique is in a really good position, especially because he's still held on to that Gigantamax for later.
And he's carving out a better position every single time he lands one of these Snarls. That Charizard just hasn't been able to get super good value out of the first 2 of its Gigantamax turns, and I think he's got to be looking to try and get really, really good value out in this 3rd turn. It's so important to use all of those turns to their max potential, and to help that out, Renzo's going to activate his own solar power. I think he needs that in this turn to make sure this 3rd turn is useful.
Especially because that Charizard has taken 2 special attack drops, and now the Light Screen is set up for Enrique. We're going to see that Charizard go for another Max Airstream just to be able to give that Groudon a little bit of a speed boost, but still, Grimmsnarl taking these attacks super, super well. And I think that Renzo has not been able to get nearly as much value out of these Gigantamax turns as he needs to. That parting shot from Enrique's Incineroar is going to land onto Renzo's Groudon. and that is going to continue to control the amount of damage output that Renzo is going to be able to do in this game 1.
He's managing it so well. Parting shots, snarls. This Incineroar's job is just to keep attacks low and attacks manageable from Renzo's side of the field, and he's doing great at it, to be honest. The Charizard does come in, takes a little bit of damage from the solar power, just because it's in there and it's in the sun. The Grimmsnarl is asleep, which does help Renzo out for the next couple of turns. Knows that slot maybe either switched out or just unable to act, at least on this following turn, and does have the speed boost on the Groudon, which is nice and helpful. The Groudon, maybe just saying, well, I did get, caught with the parting shot, but I still believe in my ability to get those knockouts. So Enrique throwing up that Charizard, saying, you know what, I'll use mine now, but Enrique holding onto the Gigantamax, maybe looking for a better opportunity to use it here.
Yeah, we're going to even see the Grimmsnarl that got put to sleep, get switched out for the Incineroar. So another great cycling and mitigation of damage coming in for Enrique. That Groudon now at -2 coming through from the parting shot, as well as the Intimidate now. And Enrique has decided it is time. Renzo's Gigantamax is over. Now it is time for my Gigantamax. Let's go ahead and see that Charizard in action for Enrique, as it's about time that we see some more damage come through. I think Enrique has really set themselves up well to stunt the amount of value that Renzo has been able to get out of those first Gigantamax turns. And take a look at this. That's not going to be very much damage coming through from that Heat Wave at all. And even that Rock Slide not doing very much damage to either Pokemon. So Charizard going to be able to get a huge G-Max Wildfire down. That is just a one-hit knockout onto that Groudon.
That is the early board management from Enrique coming into play here, knowing that he can take 2 attacks, including a super effective Rock Slide onto that Charizard. Feeling pretty good about that one, and of course getting the G-Max Wildfire. That's going to be able to weaken up that Umbreon, which is in the back as well. That's something that you need to wear it down, and the G-Max Wildfire between turns does so much more than the leftovers ever could do for the Umbreon. So being able to wear that down, it's just really a tale of 2 Charizards here. This Charizard on Renzo's side was significantly weakened, was just landing little speed boosts and some little bits of damage here and there. Then you get Enrique's in when he feels the board is right, and it just gets a one-hit knockout on a Pokemon so important like the Groudon. So very different styles of play from both of these trainers. Incineroar just trying to manage the board a little bit as well. That nicely in position to keep this Charizard in line.
But another G-Max Wildfire coming through, and it's another one-hit knockout. Enrique just showing Renzo how to get max value out of all of these Gigantamax turns. Charizard is going to take some recoil from the solar power, but that is just such a good position for Enrique to be in, knowing that he has secured 2 knockouts. Now, the G-Max Wildfire residual damage is not going to affect this Incineroar or this Charizard on Renzo's side, but I feel like this Charizard for Enrique has already done its job by securing 2 massive knockouts.
We talk about G-Max Wildfire so much and how much it does between turns, but let's not forget it is just a very powerful attack. It's in the sun, it's boosted by solar power, and once the Charizard over on Renzo's side was managed rather well, it's been taking those drops from Snarl, it's been dealing with, it did get a speed boost, but it's not really able to use it that well because of the Snarls. Yeah, it did of course get that really nice boost early on, but it's just been struggling to get a foothold in the game, and it's certainly the tale of 2 Charizard here. Enrique still has all 4 Pokemon. He's able to switch around, including getting his Incineroar back out for a fake out later in the game.
Yeah, the Grimmsnarl coming in just to be able to take some of this damage, and look at that! Charizard just hangs on from that Heat Wave. Holy cow! Gonna be able to knock out Renzo's Charizard just like that. And so with 3 max moves, that is 3 knockouts for Enrique. Renzo just has the Incineroar left.
Yeah, the Incineroar's not going to be able to deal with it. The Charizard does finally go down, but it's the end of its Dynamax anyway, so it's not going to be too worried about that one. It's got max value, and like I say, it's just been so good at dealing with Renzo's team. He's been able to push on through, make sure he gets consistent knockouts left, right, and center. Yes, it is going to be a reveal of the 4th Pokemon from Enrique, but I don't think that's much of a shock, as this Incineroar's definitely going to struggle to try and find a 1 versus 3 sweep. I've seen some crazy things in some of these tournaments, but I do not think the 1 versus 3 reverse sweep out of an Incineroar, particularly the Incineroar build that is here, the Flare Blitz is not going to be the one that you need to try and get through it. So Renzo is going to fight back, is going to see this one out, but I think we know where this game is headed.
Yeah. You know, go ahead and target the Grimmsnarl. It is asleep. You know that it's not really going to do a whole lot of anything to you right now. And in the sun, that Grimmsnarl is going to be knocked out here, but it's just a matter of time before that Groudon is going to be able to fire back. At this point, Renzo is really hoping to just have a Precipice Blades miss coming out from Enrique's Groudon, but yeah, that's about it. I mean, Enrique can also still send out Incineroar and just fake out.
Yeah, I think the Groudon just protected there, waiting for Incineroar to come back in alongside it. Yes, it is very, very low, but the Incineroar on Renzo's side, unable to buy any time for itself, no Protect available, as there is the case on many Incineroar. I've seen some with Protect, but not very many at all, and it's just going to get caught with the combination Fake Out, and then a follow-up attack from Groudon. If Groudon keeps missing attacks, maybe that is an out. Not even going to go for the Precipice Blades, just trying to Rock Slide it with that single target damage as well. And Incineroar flinched. It was the Fake Out in that turn, but you know, really going for the flinches there on Enrique's side.
Yeah, at this point, I think Renzo has gotten as much information as they can out of this game number 1. It is still closed team sheet, so every little bit of information does matter. But I think that Renzo can walk away from that game number 1 and realize that they just have to get so much more done with their Gigantamax turns than what Enrique was really allowing them to do in that game 1.
Yeah, that early setup from Enrique, the light screen, the snarls, just so many problems that I don't think Renzo had a proper answer to, and he can't let that get set up on him again. Yes, he got speed boosts, yes, he got special defense boosts, but they weren't helping when you were able to take attacks or go first and make sure your attack got in first. When your attack's not doing enough, it's just not impactful enough, and you need more out of those 3 crucial turns. I mean, it was 3 decent attacks, decent bits of damage, compared to 3 knockouts. That is such a stark difference in how the Charizard was executed. And even though they bought very, very similar setups of Pokemon, they bought 3 identical, and then of course the difference in the Grimmsnarl and the Umbreon, there was just such a stark difference in how much Enrique was able to limit Renzo and then do after that turn. So Enrique kind of played it on the back foot, I think, for the early portion of the game, just saying, you know what, you're allowed to throw attacks at me, that's fine, I'm going to snarl you, I'm going to put up a light screen in your face, and once that was dealt with, you know, the Charizard came in, the Groudon came in for Renzo, needed to do a little bit more. You know, there wasn't any drops on it, there wasn't a Reflect Up. It just got caught by a G-Max Wildfire and was immediately handled.
Well, let's go ahead and get right into this game 2. Will we see Enrique move forward into our losers finals, or can Renzo take a game win and tie up this series? Let's see what Enrique decides to lead with. It will be that Charizard and Venusaur, and for Renzo it is the Incineroar and the Charizard. No sun on the field just yet, so Enrique's Venusaur is not going to be able to be the fastest Pokemon we know it can be, but it kind of begs the question, who did bring the sun? Who's going to set it up first? Who's going to give away that advantage?
Right now, Enrique needs it a little bit more just to activate Chlorophyll on this Venusaur, and that could be an interesting switch out, right? To switch it out, maybe switch out the Charizard and then start throwing out Sleep Powders. That's certainly an option from Enrique, but Renzo, you know, has to be respectful of this Venusaur at all times. You know, you can't just be going being silly around it. You may have to throw Fake Outs on it, and I think Enrique just has the choice on how he wants to play this game now. He's got his 2 Gigantamax candidates on the field. He knows how this one could work out for him, and he obviously knows what he has in the back. So this could be a really dangerous turn. Renzo once again going for it with his Charizard on turn 1, and Venusaur knows about that. Venusaur just getting right on out of there for the Incineroar.
Yeah, Incineroar is going to come in here. I'm not sure if Renzo was able to get in that input in time. We're going to find out. Well, I guess we'll find out first how this Gigantamax is going to go, as we do see this Pokemon become larger than life. It is going to be that Charizard for Enrique, getting that Gigantamax factor. I don't know if Renzo was actually going to be... I don't know if he made it in time, Adam.
Charizard going first on Enrique's side.
Oh,
He didn't get it. It was so close. So now he's not able to max Airstream, and Enrique's going to have an advantage going into the next turn. That is devastating for Renzo Navarro.
Oh, that is so upsetting to see. Enrique is going to be able to get the better of that turn. And yes, Charizard is going to be able to fire back, but the Heat Wave misses the Charizard, hits the Incineroar. It's not very effective all around. And so Incineroar on Renzo's side going to help Renzo position. And you know what? Maybe this was a blessing in disguise, but as of right now, it still looks like it is in Enrique's favor.
The speed advantage immediately falls to Enrique, and he's just got to be feeling real good about that one. He's going to be able to land another max Airstream before the Charizard can potentially max Airstream. I don't think the Charizard is allowed to go for max Airstream now. It's so low, so you don't want to Dynamax it. On a positive for Renzo, at least he has the Venusaur this time, and the Venusaur could play as the Dynamax candidate, but, you know, the Groudon has to be considered for it too, because this Venusaur is staring down a Charizard with a speed boost, an Incineroar who's picked up a speed boost, which, weirdly enough, could make it quite impactful, and there's no Chlorophyll available right now for it. The sun's not been set up, and Renzo has to kind of do that first. We saw as well what that Charizard can do to that Groudon, so the Groudon might be forced into being the Dynamax here, with the solar power, with the sun set up. That G-Max Wildfire is just going to wear it down, and he brought in his own sun to knock out his own Charizard with solar power. This first turn, quite honestly, has been a disaster for Renzo Navarro.
I mean, that's such a terrible position to be in, because you could see what he was going for. Do I sacrifice my Charizard knowing that if I bring in the Groudon, not only am I going to have the solar power activated to knock it out, and I'm also activating the solar power for Enrique's Charizard, and potentially even giving a power boost over to that Incineroar, but also I get the free switch. So there was a lot of decision making that Renzo had to really work through in that last decision to either bring in the Groudon or bring in the Venusaur and see if that Charizard could actually get something done. But it was the Groudon choice. Venusaur is going to be coming into Charizard's place, and we'll see what happens in this next turn, but this is snowballing very quickly, Adam.
Yeah, this could get really nasty really quickly. I mean, you know, the Groudon probably looking like the Dynamax candidate now, but it's going to be a tough one for Renzo, right? Because he didn't want to use the Groudon as his Dynamax. Yes, he now gets to max Rockfall, which could be pretty cool if that's what he goes for, but you know, he wanted to play with that Charizard as the Gigantamax, so it's kind of it has to be a very quick adaptation of the game strategy. I do not blame him for getting that Venusaur out of there. This is not the place for a Venusaur at all, especially when that Charizard has a speed boost. You know, the speed boosts are going to be causing chaos, dealing with that Chlorophyll just by being as fast as it, and this max Rockfall is going to have to do the business, really. I mean, it's going to be causing some problems. You know, it has to get a knockout here, I think, or Renzo's just going to fall way too far behind.
But you have to consider as well, not only is the Charizard the one with the speed boost, but the Incineroar is as well. It is going to go for the fake out though, so Renzo's Incineroar is going to be the recipient of that. But here comes the G-Max Wildfire. It goes right into the Groudon. It will survive through that in order to be able to get off this attack. But is it going to be enough? We do see the Groudon restore some health with its Citrus Berry, and it will be able to fire back with a max Rock Ball. Let's see if Renzo can turn things around, though. It's going to connect, and it is going to get the knockout. That is just what you expect sometimes from that Max Rock Ball coming through onto a Charizard of all Pokemon.
And yeah, the Max Rock Fall super effective, and the Groudon not caught out by anything this turn. You know, last time we saw it Rock Slide, not get there. This time the Groudon was at full strength and was able to get the knockout. Does take away the Sun, though, for its, you know, its potential Venusaur in the back. I imagine Enrique is going to have to show the Sun on his own side at some point. But, you know, being a little safe with the fake out there, maybe a parting shot could have been the play. I do like the Max Wildfire getting put down, though. You know, the Max Wildfire there is, between turns, going to significantly weaken this Groudon and make it a whole lot more manageable. The Groudon on Enrique's side, bringing back the Sun, making sure that that Sandstorm doesn't stick around for too long. The Groudon on Renzo's side already activating its berry as well, so it doesn't even have access to that. And so the Pokemon count leveled up quite nicely, but just on health bars alone, this Groudon looking real good.
Yeah, I still think that speed boost on the Incineroar is going to be a little bit of a problem, but let's go ahead and see how this next turn plays out. I think that Renzo still is in a position to get back into this one. Gotta make sure your inputs are in fast enough though, so we will see this Incineroar go for the fake out. Groudon on Enrique's side, not going to be able to move for this turn, but Groudon is actually going to still be fast enough. Goes for the Max Quake right into the Incineroar. That's enough to knock it out. I think Renzo's back in this one.
Definitely is a big swing from that Groudon after that terrible turn one, realizing, hey, maybe the blessing in disguise was that he didn't get to Dynamax that Charizard. He's now managed to pick up 2 knockouts back to back with that Groudon, probably thinking, oh, this Groudon's putting a bit of a shift, but look at the damage coming in between turns. It's starting to look a little dangerous, starting to look a little punishing here, and the Venusaur comes in with the sun up. So this is going to be a tough old situation. The Venusaur doesn't need speed boosts when it has access to its chlorophyll. This Groudon could just get caught short. The Incineroar's already used its fake out, so it may be forced into a switch, and maybe we're going to end up in this Venusaur mirror at the end.
Yeah, and then that begs the question of how these specific Venusaur are trained. Because it could be a speed tie, it could be that one of them is trained to be faster. So that does remain to be seen, but let's go ahead and see how the rest of this game plays out. Obviously, you know, I would love to get more games out of the series, so let's see if Renzo can really bring himself back into this one and tie it up versus Enrique. We are going to see this switch out from the Incineroar, and so Venusaur now coming in its stead. Is that going to be enough though? We do see Enrique's Venusaur go for the protect here, and maybe just preparing for whatever this Groudon is going to do. Groudon going for another Max Quake. I think this is really smart, especially knowing that the Venusaur is still up and is threatening a lot of big damage with those special attacks. So we will see those special defense boosts coming through, and nice damage mitigation from Enrique's part.
Yeah, Enrique playing it very well, but this Precipice Blades is going to be so impactful. Look at the damage between turns. The Groudon doesn't get knocked out by the attack, but it does get knocked out by the G-Max Wildfire, and that's why these moves are so good. The Pokemon count immediately leveled up. I love that Protect on the Venusaur, and the Precipice Blades actually got that Venusaur real low.
Yeah, I think that Venusaur as well, we were thinking about maybe the speed advantage that might happen in these chlorophyll conditions, but now it's really about whether or not these Venusaur might be able to survive an oncoming attack. In this position, Renzo does have the ability to use the fake out. He knows that the Venusaur on Enrique's side just protected, so it could also be vulnerable to something like a Flare Blitz. And so I think this next turn is going to matter. It's going to matter a lot, Adam.
It really is, but you can't just leave that Groudon to its own devices. You've got to be smart about it. You've got to be respectful of what it can do. Yes, the Incineroar gets its free fake out down, but the Groudon's the problem right now. Venusaur going for it. It needs the knockout here.
Oh, it gets it! I think it... Oh,
no,
no, it doesn't!
It falls a fraction short. It needed that so badly. Groudon activating its berry, but the Precipice Blades miss! Oh, dearie me, what a turn. So much going on. The Groudon now knows, though. Really good news for the Groudon. You can't get Frenzy Planted again this turn. You does need a turn to recharge, and that... Oh, that Groudon hanging on is so important.
Wow, okay, I absolutely got baited, Adam. I swear, I was like, oh, that Groudon's gonna go down, and then it didn't. Venusaur now for Enrique's side, gonna be able to fire up a Weather Ball in a sunny weather, knocking out Renzo's Venusaur. And even though that Venusaur was gonna have to recharge from that Frenzy Plant, Enrique's Groudon is not going to miss twice. This Precipice Blades is going to hit. It is going to bring that Incineroar down very low. We will see this Flare Blitz come through, but I'm pretty sure that after that amount of damage, yes, that Groudon goes down, but that Incineroar with that recoil from the Flare Blitz going to get knocked out as well. And Enrique Grimaldo taking this series 2-0.
That is one of the most clutchest, clingings